My name is Nathan Briggs, and if you had asked me a year ago what I feared most, I would have said failure. Not physical pain, not death, just the idea of losing everything I built. But nothing prepares you for betrayal, especially when it comes wrapped in love. I was 43 when my back finally gave out. Years of warehouse work had caught up with me. One wrong lift, one bad step, and suddenly, I was in the hospital for spinal surgery. The pain was bad, but the helplessness was worse. I could not walk for weeks. I could not even sit up without help. And during all that time, I had to trust someone else to manage my life. That someone was my wife, Becky. We had been married for 15 years. No kids, no dramatic fights, just the slow wear and tear that time puts on two people. She was charming in public, always polished and polite. But at home, she had become distant, cold. Still, I trusted her. I had to. Who else could I count on? Before surgery, I made a choice that would later save everything. I gave temporary power of attorney to my lawyer and friend, Curtis. I told him it was just in case something went wrong, so bills could be paid, so no one could sneak behind my back. I never expected it to be necessary. But I did it anyway. That's the funny thing about instinct. Sometimes it whispers before the storm hits. Surgery went well. The doctor said I'd walk again with time and therapy. But recovery was slow. Pain meds made me foggy. I stayed mostly in bed. Becky visited every day at first, brought food, fluffed my pillows. But by week 3, she came less often. By week 4, she barely answered my texts. "I'm just overwhelmed," she said when I asked. "Work is crazy. I'll come tomorrow." Tomorrow turned into days. Days turned into silence. Curtis checked in on me often, brought soup, updated me on mail and paperwork. On one visit, he looked uneasy. "Hey," he said, pulling a chair close. "You trust Becky, right?" I blinked. "That's a weird question. Why?" He hesitated. "She's been in contact with a realtor, someone named Daniel Spencer. I saw emails. They're trying to push through a sale on your house." I sat up fast. The pain screamed in my spine, but I ignored it. "She's what?" "Trying to sell your house. She told the agent you're incapacitated, but agreed to the sale. Said she had your permission." "She doesn't," I said flatly. "I never signed anything." "I know. That's why I stopped it. But she's pushing hard. My house wasn't just a building. It was where I'd grown up. My parents passed it to me before they died. It was the last piece of them I had. Becky knew that. And now she was trying to sell it out from under me, while I could barely get out of bed. The betrayal sat in my chest like ice. That night I tried calling her. No answer. I texted, "We need to talk now." She replied hours later, "You're overreacting. Let's not make this messy." Messy? I didn't reply. I was too stunned to even feel angry. The next morning, Curtis came again, this time with more than just updates. "I've got an idea," he said. "You want revenge? Let's give her the house, but not the way she thinks." "What do you mean?" "You let her list it. Let her think she's got you beat. But I'll set up a buyer, someone she won't recognize. Someone who will bid through a shell company. We'll buy the house back." I looked at him unsure. He shrugged. "You've got savings, and I know someone who can run it clean. We'll catch her in the act, and we'll make sure you walk away with the house and your dignity. A plan, a real plan. Not anger, not threats, just a strategy." I nodded. "Let's do it." Becky had no idea what was coming. While she was busy betraying me with forged papers and secret meetings, I was laying a trap with the help of the one person she didn't think to account for. Someone who knew every inch of the law and every twist of the game, and I was ready to watch her fall. Curtis got to work immediately. By the next morning, he had someone on board, his cousin Evan, a real estate investor who agreed to act as the buyer. We set up a shell company in Evan's name and routed all. Communications through Curtis, so Becky would never suspect the truth. The shell company had a generic-sounding name, Cascade Property Holdings, and a polished-looking email signature. Everything looked legit. "She won't see this coming," Curtis said. And she didn't. Becky, thinking I was either too drugged or too weak to stop her, pushed ahead with the listing. I stayed silent, playing the helpless role she clearly expected. Every time she texted me something like, "Rest up," or "Thinking of you," I wanted to respond with everything I knew. But I didn't. I waited. The house officially hit the market 1 week later. I watched the listing go live on Zillow, Redfin, and everywhere else. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, great neighborhood. Photos I had taken myself back when we renovated it together. Now used to sell the home behind my back. I'll be honest, seeing it made me sick. Not just the betrayal, but how casually she was doing it. Like it was nothing. Like I meant nothing. Curtis had the shell buyer reach out that same week. He made an offer slightly above asking price to shut down other bidders and fast-track the process. Becky accepted within 24 hours. No counter, no questions. Curtis showed me the message thread between her and the agent. One line stuck with me. Let's close fast. My husband won't be a problem. That was it. She didn't even refer to me by name. Just my husband. An obstacle. The betrayal had gone from emotional to strategic. She was treating this like a hostile takeover. But I knew something she didn't. I still held all the leverage. You see, my name was the only one on the deed. Becky thought she could sell it anyway by faking signatures. And using the power of attorney, she believed I had given her. What she didn't know was that the real POA was in Curtis's name. Hers was invalid because I had quietly revoked it before surgery. All her paperwork was based on lies. All her documents were smoke. While the sale progressed, Curtis made sure the escrow company stayed quiet. He explained that the buyer had privacy concerns, which in the world of real estate was surprisingly common. Becky never asked for more. She was too eager to be rid of the house and me. 3 days before the final sale meeting, Becky came to visit me at the rehab facility. First time in over a week. She brought coffee, smiled, acted like nothing was happening. "How are you feeling?" she asked, brushing imaginary lint off my blanket. "Better," I said. "Therapy's going well." "Good, good," she replied. "You'll be home soon." Home. The house she was selling to a fake buyer. The house she was handing to a stranger. I almost laughed. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving. It felt like being patted by a ghost. Curtis and I decided to move the closing forward. Becky was excited, rushed even. I think she planned to take the money and vanish, probably with the new guy, whoever he was. I didn't know his name yet, but I would. The closing day came. I stayed in the rehab facility on purpose, told Becky I was too sore to attend, but that I'd sign whatever she needed later. She took it as confirmation that I was out of the way. Curtis attended the closing in Evan's place, pretending to represent the buyer. Becky showed up in a new dress and heels, acting like she was cashing out her lottery ticket. The papers were signed. The fake buyer wired the money. The keys were handed off. The deal was done. Only it wasn't, because Curtis had already filed a quiet title action the day before the closing, alerting the county recorder's office that there was a dispute over ownership. Because Becky forged documents, the sale was automatically flagged for investigation. The wire transfer, recalled before it even settled. And the best part? The fake buyer, Cascade Property Holdings, was now the legal party with a pending claim on the home. Becky would soon find out that the man who bought our house was me. And I was just getting started. Becky still thought everything had gone smoothly. She believed she had outmaneuvered me, cashed out on the house, and slipped away clean. But the trap had already been triggered. Curtis kept me updated every step of the way. The moment the county recorder's office flagged the transaction for fraud, Becky's realtor, Daniel Spencer, received a notice halting the transfer of the property title. That should have been her first clue. But instead of backing off, she tried to muscle through it. She called the escrow officer angry and loud, said it was a mistake, that I was fine with everything, that there was no fraud. But none of that mattered. The wire transfer had already been reversed. The documents had been pulled for handwriting analysis. And Daniel? He wasn't about to stick his neck out. He'd been in shady deals before and knew when to walk away. Curtis received an email from Spencer that read, "I'm out. Tell your client I'm not getting dragged into this." Becky didn't know yet that it was Curtis who had been pulling all the strings. The very next morning, Becky showed up at my rehab facility again, this time without coffee or fake smiles. Her tone was different, more clipped, more cautious. "Hey," she said, arms crossed. "Have you been talking to the bank?" I stared at her calmly. "No, why?" "There's a delay with the house sale," she said, forcing a smile. "Just some paperwork issues." "Oh," I said, trying not to smirk. "You sold the house?" She blinked. "We agreed it was too much for us." "No," I said slowly. "You decided that. I never agreed to anything." Her face went stiff. Nathan, let's not do this now. You're still healing. Right, I said. Healing. That must have made it easier to forge my name. Her expression cracked just a little. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. She stood there for a long second, as if calculating whether to fight or run. Eventually, she just turned and walked out without another word. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. You think you're clever? You don't know who you're messing with. Curtis traced the number. It belonged to a man named Caleb, ex-con, minor charges, connected to Spencer's past deals. Apparently, this was Becky's new friend. The same guy she planned to run away with. Caleb didn't know I had gone to the police. He didn't know Curtis had sent evidence to the local DA. He didn't know I had already filed to reclaim legal control of the property under power of attorney. And he certainly didn't know the house still legally belonged to me. The next day, Curtis got a call from the same title company Becky used. They were now cooperating fully, turning over every document Becky submitted. Signatures, emails, even a scanned approval letter from me, complete with my forged name. We now had enough for formal charges, but I wasn't done yet. Curtis and I made one more move. We scheduled a second closing, a fake one, same property, same address. But this time, the buyer, me, was meeting the seller, also me under full legal supervision. The point? To complete a formal claim of the property and submit it with the district court. The transaction was symbolic, but powerful. That Friday, Becky went back to the house for the first time since trying to sell it. Probably to pack up or meet with Caleb. Maybe both. She had no idea Curtis and I would be waiting there. She pulled into the driveway like she still owned the place. And then she saw me, standing at the front door. Her face froze. She stopped in her tracks. What are you doing here? I held up a manila envelope. Thought you'd like to see what you signed. She didn't move. Curtis stepped out from the side yard. Also brought a notary, just in case you want to review anything. This is harassment, she stammered. I'm calling the police. Please do, I said. I'd love to explain to them how you tried to sell a house that was never yours to begin with. Becky's hand shook. You're bluffing. No, Curtis said. You are, and you're out of cards. She backed away, then turned and ran to her car, slamming the door and speeding down the street. It was done. I had my house back, legally, fully, publicly. But there was still one more thing left to do. The moment Becky drove away, Curtis turned to me with a slow nod. That's what justice looks like, he said. But I wasn't smiling, not yet. Taking back the house was only part of the story. I didn't just want to stop her. I wanted the full truth exposed. Not out of spite, but because I knew there were more people like me. People she and Caleb could hurt next. The next week was a blur of court filings, bank statements, and police reports. The forged documents Becky had submitted weren't just fraudulent. They were criminal. Between the fake signatures, the unauthorized listing, and her false claims about my condition, the DA had enough to begin a formal investigation. Meanwhile, Curtis followed the money. Caleb, it turned out, had been involved in multiple suspicious property flips with Daniel Spencer, the same realtor Becky used. Most of these deals were tied to vulnerable individuals, recent widows, people in nursing homes, disabled veterans, the kind of people who were easy to manipulate. And Becky? She wasn't just a clueless accomplice anymore. She had forged my signature and tried to transfer property she had no legal claim to. That made her part of the scheme. A week after the confrontation, I was summoned to speak with investigators. They asked everything: my timeline, our marriage, the forged power of attorney, the fake signatures, the house sale, the emails Curtis had forwarded. I gave them everything. At the end of the interview, one of the investigators, a woman named Officer Perez, looked me in the eye and said, "You've done the right thing. You're not the only one these people have hurt." 2 days later, I received an official letter in the mail. Charges were being filed against Caleb and Daniel Spencer: real estate fraud, identity theft, attempted grand larceny, and conspiracy. Becky was named in the investigation. The news hit Becky hard. She messaged me again. "Becky, I didn't mean for this to happen. I was scared. He told me you wouldn't find out. Please, Nathan, I'm going to lose everything." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back 2 words. "So did I." She didn't reply. That weekend, I received a call from Officer A. Perez. "We've arrested Caleb. He was trying to flee the state. Spencer is cooperating. Becky hasn't been arrested yet, but we recommend you pursue civil damages. You have a strong case." But I didn't want money. Not really. I wanted her to face consequences publicly. That Monday, I filed a lawsuit for attempted property theft and forgery. We asked for full restitution of court fees, investigation costs, and legal expenses. By then, Becky had lawyered up. Her attorney reached out with a settlement offer. She'd drop her claims to the house, provide a written confession, and publicly apologize in exchange for me dropping the civil suit. I read the letter. I signed the agreement. And I requested one final condition. She had to deliver the apology in person, on video. It would be sealed, not published, but required by law. So, 1 month after the ordeal began, Becky sat across from me in a legal office, hands folded, eyes glassy. Curtis recorded. I, Rebecca Briggs, admit to attempting to sell property I did not own. I forged my husband's signature, submitted false documents, and misrepresented his condition. I acted without his consent and violated both our marriage and the law. She looked at me when she finished. "I never thought it would go this far," she said. I stood, calm and steady on my feet. "Neither did I, but you made your choice." Curtis stopped the recording. The final paperwork was signed. It was done. In the weeks that followed, I moved back into my house, my home. I fired the rehab nurses Becky had hired my own full-time PT, and recovered faster than anyone expected. The back pain remained, but something else had lifted. The constant weight of wondering if I could trust the person sleeping next to me. That silence, that was gone. One afternoon, I received a letter in the mail. It was from a woman in Texas. She said the police had contacted her after they discovered her. House was also being targeted by Spencer and Caleb. She was a widow, on disability. They had tried the same scam. "They told me my name didn't matter," she wrote, "that no one would believe me. But because of your case, I still have my home. Thank you." I pinned the letter to my fridge. That's what revenge is supposed to be. I think, not just pain returned, but truth restored. A balance. Becky moved back to her hometown. I heard she's working at a small dental office, staying quiet. I never saw Caleb or Spencer again. Both pled out. Both did time. As for me, I wake up in my own bed, in my own home, with no one pretending to love me while plotting behind my back. And every once in a while, I walk past the "for sale" sign I keep in the garage. A little reminder of the day. She tried to erase me and ended up watching everything slip from her hands because she thought I was weak, but I was just waiting, quiet, prepared, and one step ahead.